Okay, good evening. All right. Um, let's get started. I have three pieces here. I hope we can get through all of them. Uh, the first is from Shem Mishmuel, who we've seen many times before. And I just have to apologize for the order of the sheet. There's a little confusion, but just very simple. Go to number 2 first. Okay. Number 2 is some introductory psukim, which will affect the next few pieces. The beginning of the Parsha, Vata Tetzaveh, right at the beginning of the Parsha, and you, speaking to Moshe Rabbeinu, the Rebbeinu Shalom says, and you will command Bnei Israel, Vayikhu Elecha Shemen Zayit Zach. This is the preparation of the menorah, the lighting, teaching of the lighting of the menorah. Take pure olive oil, Elecha to you, Shemen Zayit Zach, Hatit Lamaor, it's really prepared, refined for the light. Lahalot ner tamid, to light the ner tamid, the singular ner tamid, the constant light. The oil moed and the oil moed. Michutz leparochet. It's just outside the parochet. There was a parochet that divided between the Kodesh Kodashim, the Holy of Holies, and the Heichal. Asher al Aedut, the parochet which was on the Edut, meaning the 10 Commandments, the 2 tablets which were in the Aron in the Kodesh Kedoshim, Yarech oto Aaron ubanav. You set up the Aaron and his children and sons should set up the menorah. Me'erev ad boker, from evening till morning. The light, there's enough light from evening till morning. Lifnei Hashem, before Hashem. Ukat olam adorotam, it's a walk forever. Me'et b'nei Israel, for b'nei Israel. Okay, those are the psukim. To number 1. Okay, so he talks about Vata Tetzaveh. You command Bnei Israel. So he's going to quote a medrash here comparing the Jewish people to olives. Right? You command the Jewish people to take olive oil and light the menorah. Hahu dichtiv, he quotes a pasuk. Zayit ra'anan yafeh pri toar. TORAH Hashem Shimcha, means a beautiful, verdant, richly vegetable, a beautiful, verdant olive is what HaKadosh Baruch Hu calls you. We are the olive to the Rebbeinu Shalom. Ella, the Medrash continues, Ma zayit hazeh, what about this olive? Shuhu Be'elenu migargarin, we pick it, we take it off the tree, the olive tree. Ba'achakach moridin oto, we bring it down. V'nichbat, we beat it. V'tochanin, we squeeze it. Oto ba'achakach makifin otan b'chavalim, we wrap it in cloth. U'mevi'in avanim, we bring stones. Ba'achach notnin, we press it down with the stones to get all these 3 processes to get the olive oil out of the olive. Nosnin et shimnan. So that's how we get the oil. Kach Yisrael, so to the Jewish people. Boin umot ha'olam, the nations of the world come v'chot choftin, and they attack us. V'achakach osin tshuva. So the whole medrash, they take us, they smash us, they bang us, they cover us, right? Something that we are all too familiar with right now at this very moment in Toldot Am Yisrael in Jewish history. V'achakach osim tshuva. And after the suffering from the nations of the world, it brings us to do tshuva. In fact, we've seen a great deal of tshuva in our world today. HaKadosh Baruch Hu onelem, and HaKadosh Baruch Hu will answer them. Havizayit rana and yafeh pritor, you're the not the apple of my eye, you're the olive of my eye, because you've been squeezed and pushed and crushed, and yet you survive, you do tshuva. So he asks a question on this medrash. Yesh li tmoa. I'm shocked, he says. Shechas v'shalom lomar shekein surat Yisrael. This is the description of the Jewish people. Shelo la'asot tshuva ad shaboim aleim yisurim, that the Jewish people will only return to him and live a spiritual life only after suffering, Chas v'shalom. But this seems to be what is the Medrash saying? V'shahare sham el davar hu mauto. TORAH shimcha mora shekach hu mahut Yisrael chas v'shalom. This is the essence of the Jewish people. That's what the pasuk is saying. Lomar Kain can't be what the Medrash really means. There has to be a deeper meaning to this Medrash, that there is a mashal and a nimshal to what the nations of the world do to us, but more precisely what we do to ourselves. And that's the between the lines of this Medrash. Kol aval pirushu, this is the explanation. Dihinei, l'chura nirad shahatshuva kazu al yedei yisurin rachman al-itzlan, ein bo kol kach sheva. This is not a praiseworthy kind of tshuva. We, unfortunately, will take it. If a Jew does tshuva this way, we'll take it, but this is not the idyllic situation. The Medrash is coming and saying this is not what God wants. Sharizayit kach tzurato. This is the essence of the olive. Sheyitain shmano acher kol hamaisim. That the olive will, in fact, it's true, bring out the pure olive oil after all of these deeds. But mikol makom zeh shvacho. This is the shevach of the olive of Bnei Israel. Ki al yedei hamasim einano let it lo techuna cheret rak shemikodem haya tamun shvacho upsolet makifo umashkin. In ourselves, every Jew is impure. We are not perfect. Nobody is perfect. There's nobody in this world that has not sinned. So a person has to view his constant struggle spiritually in this world. The next line, misalkin hapsolet. We have to constantly be crushing ourselves, removing the dross, removing the items that inhibit the pure spirituality of the olive oil, which is what we are compared to. This brings out the true essence of us. Ken Yisrael. This is the Jewish people. The Jewish people are essentially good people. We are all good. We are holy people. Rak lefamim b'mikra solet makifam. But sometimes, by mikra, by happenstance, we fall into psolet. We fall into waste, into negative forces. When we remove that psolet, the Jewish people, the real Jew comes out. That's the process that the Medrash is alluding to, of pressing and pushing and squeezing the olive oil out. And the Rambam gives an example, a very bristling example. Bitam kofinoto achiome rotzani. This is the last halacha in Hilchas Gittin. If someone refuses to give a get, Bezdin forces him. The community forces him to give a get. They force him ad sheyoma rotzani, until he says, I'm willing to give the get. Because remember, it cannot be given by force. It's not a get. A get has to be given by free will. So we force him. The last halacha in Gittin is we force him until he says, I want to do it. How is this evil person, this terrible person who's me'agen, a woman, how does he say rotzani? Well, Korach Amruzal, the rabbis say, Gemur and Brachas, Tova mirdot nitgaleh etzem Yisrael. The truth is, he said, suffering will eventually bring out the true Jew. Ukein shekatav Rambam, as the Rambam writes, v'tam kofinoto, the reason why we force him, ad sheyoma rotzan, until he says, uncle. He says, I'm going to do it. I'm going to do it. Al Korach Amruzal, the rabbis mean, Tova mardot nitgaleh etzem Yisrael. And the next line, Atal belibo shel adam yoter mimeya makliot. In other words, really, this Jew, an evil Jew, any Jew who sins, really in his heart, he wants to do the right thing, even though there are layers and layers of evil covering that heart, that neshama. But if you uncover it, you're kofin, you force, eventually he'll get to the point, right? Adam yoter mimeya malkot. He called pu'ulat hamalkiot Hilo likroa sagur halev. Umemela nitgale etzem Yisrael. Eventually, the true Jew will come out. Kal v'chomer lemardot belibo. So too, if we hit our hearts, so to speak, we klap al chet shel adam. Sheme'atzmo hitorer etzem Yisrael. That's going to bring out the true yid of a person. V'hanakuda pnimit, his internal neshama, latzeit mitoch hachoshech. That's what the Rambam means, that Bezdin forces him, not until he gives a get. That's not a good get. They force him until he realizes that he has to give the get. It's the right thing to do, and he's going to do it. Okay. That's the Shem Yishmu. Now let's go to 3. And now 3 is at the bottom. Now you see 3 is at the bottom. We'll come back to 3b. That's the large paragraph. Now, this is from the Kli Yakar. The Kli Yakar was a principal student of the Maral Prague, and he's going to say something very profound on this whole pasuk that we quoted at the opening of the Parsha. V'ata Tetzaveh b'nei Yisrael. So yeah, he's going to ask a number of questions. The first question is, what's this you? V'ata Tetzaveh b'nei Yisrael. Yesh l'daktek mahu v'ata Tetzaveh. Now, we've talked about this in the past, that the Ribono Shel Olam spoke to him more intimately. We're going to go in a different direction here, the Kli Yakar. It's not only the v'ata, he's bothered by the grammar of the pasuk. V'ata Tetzaveh ishnei nochachiyut. It's two speaking to him person. Tziva mi boile. Properly, it should say v'ata tzaveh, you command. V'ata you titzaveh. Titzaveh means you command. So you Moshe, command Bnei Yisrael. Right? What is that all about? Gam milat atah. Hulo miyuteret. The truth is, the word atah is Ibric. It's mutar. It's redundant. Ki ha'ilo lomar. The whole thing is tzavet Bnei Yisrael. We have that in other parshot. Ki loshen zeh nemar beParshat Emor. Exactly. That's really what is said in Parshat Emor concerning the lighting of the candles of the menorah. Al hanerot halalu. So he quotes a Ramban here, which is going to be a very valuable source for answering this question and the others that are going to come. And the Ramban says, why did he do this? Why is it v'ata tetzaveh, you command? For some reason, shalo yaseh zeh al yedei shaliyah. For some reason, the Ribono Shel Olam did not want this mitzvah to be done by a shaliyah, lighting the menorah. Mikol makam higufakash, but the Ramban is very hard to understand. Lama hikpid ha-mitzvah zu yoter mikol ha-mitzvot. Why dafka is the mitzvah of hadlakat ha-menorah, the lighting of the menorah in the Beit HaMikdash and the Mishkan? Why was that dafka? It had to be you light it. So it begs that other question. Now go back upstairs here to 3b on the sheet, okay? Od kasha. Another question a Meforshim ask. Ma inyan mitzvah zu lekan. Why is the mitzvah here, right here? Ki ikar makoma achar asiyat ha-mishkan. V'hanachat. It really should be after the Mishkan is completed, right? Od kasha. Next paragraph says, remember the pasuk in number 2, lahalot ner tamid. Command him to light the constant light. Miboyle shahare shiva hayu. What do you mean? Lahadlik ner tamid nerot miboyle. It shouldn't say ner tamid. It should say nerot. There are 7 lights to the candelabrum, to the menorah. Shahare shiva hayu. V'od kasha. Another question. Hello, lo dalku ki'im me'erev ad boker. Pasuk says the lights went from evening to morning. V'lama amar hamid. Why does it say tamid? Tamid is 24 hours, not 12 hours. V'od kasha. Another question. V'amru, it says in the pasuk, put it ba'ol moed, michutz laparochet, outside the parochet, right? Asher al edut, which is between the Kodesh HaKadoshim, the Holy of Holies, with the Aron, with the edut, with the 2 tablets of stone, with the Seres HaDibros, right? And the Hechel with the menorah, right? Michutz laparochet. Kol mare makom orach zeh. What does he need this whole geographic presentation? Who near the lo tzarach? We don't need it. He could have simply said ala menorah yarach oto, just light the menorah. Vikvar Yadana, we already know Makom HaMenorah Echanu, we know where the menorah is. V'hinei lohuz kar ki'im ner echad. And he says ner echad, again, ner echad, right? One light. With Parshat Emor, where the lighting of the candles of the menorah takes place, the mitzvah takes place, Amar Yaroch et hanerot. It says nerot. There are 7 nerot. V'od. I think this is the last question he's going to ask. Gan nemar ba'oel moed. It says here you do it in the oel moed. V'achakach michutz laparochet. And then michutz laparochet. U'b'parshat Emor, muchlefet hashita. It's just the opposite. It's the same thing, but he says it the opposite. Shamar tchila michutz laparochet. V'achakach ba'oel moed. But here there seems to be some significance of attaching the menorah to that parochet, parochet, and the Kodesh Kadoshim. V'kan nemar michutz laparochet asher al haidut, v'sham nemar chutz laparochet. So that's all his question. So what's going on here? So here's his answer. V'nir li Hashev. Basically, what he's going to tell us is that with all of the you'll excuse me for using the expression, the holy props and the mitzvot that we have, and all of the holy items and the klei kodesh that we have, the vessels, there's, aside from the individual vessels, there are going to be a number of vessels which are headline vessels, headline kalim, right? To show something that the other vessels do not necessarily show, right? Let's see what he says. V'nir li Hashem. Kol zeh mima shekatav Ramban. It's really based on what the Ramban said. Ki she'amar lahalot ner tamid. Light a ner tamid. A ner tamid, the pasuk says. A constant light. Hainu ner ma'aravi. That, in fact, is the ner ma'aravi, the western light of the menorah. Stays on the entire time. There is one light in the menorah that's on the entire time, the ner ma'aravi. Shehaya daluk la'olam. It was constant, tamid. Aval shara nerot, but the other 6 lights, lo yu tamid. Ki me'er v'boker. They were me'er v'boker. B'hanachazu, what is that all about? Yiturtzu kol hasfeikot hanizkarim. We can answer all the questions that we ask. Let me show you. Ki amar shetziva Hashem l'Moshe. Torah tells us that God commanded Moshe al Mishkan, the kol kelav, and all of the vessels, all of the holy vessels. But he divided the Mishkan into 3 parts. Ve'al kulam, each of those parts, amar asuli mikdash v'shechanti b'tocham. In each of those 3 sections of the mikdash, there was a general statement: "Make me a mikdash, and I will live there. Baruch will be there." In other words, all the other klei kodesh represent a specific item, specific mitzvah that we do. But there's a certain kind of mitzvah that has to remind us that the Rebbeinu Shem is with us constantly. He is constantly in the Mishkan. He's constantly with us, right? Not just when we do the mitzvah. V'haya parochas mavdil ben kodesh lekodesh hakadoshim. We said that parochas, that curtain, divides between the Heichal and the Kodesh Kadosh, the Holy of Holies, where the Luchot are, where the Luchot HaEdut, the tablets of testimony, of Edut, that Kodesh Baruch Hu gave us the Torah. Kodesh Baruch Hu is with us constantly. V'rotza Moshe shebekol chelik yeh davar hamoreh al hashchina shrui b'Yisrael. Moshe wanted that in each section of the Beit HaMikdash, of the Mishkan, there would be some significant central motif that will tell us that HaKadosh Baruch Hu is with us constantly. V'hinei b'Kodesh HaKadoshim, on the other side of the parochas, hayu luchot ha'edut. You have the tablets of stone, the tablets, the luchot of testimony that God gave us the Torah and He's with us. Asher yitnu edut Hashem is testimony that a God is with us. Ne'emana, we have a God who is faithful. Shehashchina shruya sham, that God is resting there. HaKadosh Baruch Hu is there. Hi haluchot hayu be'en ma'aseh nisim. How do we know that HaKadosh Baruch Hu is resting with the luchot? Because the luchot are actually 2 tablets of stone which are actually miraculous. He gives one example. שהיו נקרואים משני עבריהם, ומם וסמך שבלוחות בנס היו עומדים. They were inscribed, the letters were inscribed, but the mem and the samach were not attached. Miraculously, they stood in the middle of their area. More Megillah. V'tenach shekol habol l'makom hahu, anyone who comes into the Kodesh HaKadoshim, which is only the Kohen, but anyone who would come in there, Yirayeh ayin ba'ayin, he would say eyeball to eyeball, Kishem Hashem nikra lav, that God is there. Because it's a miracle that you can create those luchot, and there are letters that are standing alone. Ha'amnam achar paroch is mafsik, but now you have the parochet. So where's the message that God is hamid? Where's the timidiyut? Where's the constancy of HaKadosh Baruch Hu's presence once you close it with the paroches? Ve'im kol adam roshoy lavo sham, and the truth is we can't go in there. It's for the Kohen. Pen chalil yomar, someone will say hamaharher harotzel shaker yarchik edav, that God is not really with us all the time, right? Al kain hutzrach HaKadosh Baruch Hu la'asot gam behechel nes tamidi. God also had to create a constant miracle in the Bener Hama'aravi. That is the western light lamp of the menorah. Kadesha kulam yistaklubo, that everyone would look at it. V'yiru Bener Hama'aravi, Shem Hashem, they'd see the Shem Hashem in the Neravis, the constant light. Kihu shochein betocham, that HaKadosh Baruch Hu is dwelling with us. V'ilu lo haya parochet mechaseh al aron ha'edut, if not for the parochet, we wouldn't need the miracle of the menorah. We could see through. We would be able to see through the whole distance of the length of the Mishkan. We'd see it. Well, the next paragraph. Nemar, and therefore, it's going to answer some of the questions. Shekol parsha zu ena kavona l'tzavot al neirot hamenorah. This parsha is not about lighting all 7 lights of menorah. Ki'im beParshat Emor, in Emor, Sham Ikar Makom Shel Tzivui. That's the mitzvah. The mitzvah of the menorah is in Parshat Emor. V'kan, here, the whole bringing of the menorah. And this parsha is not to teach the mitzvah of lighting the menorah. That's Parshat Emor. V'chein Ikar Tzivui al Ner HaMa'aravi. The emphasis is on the Ner Tamid, the Ner Ma'aravi. Legalot leMoshe, to reveal to Moshe, Ki af al pisha parochet mechaseh al aron ha'edut, notwithstanding the fact that the parochet curtain is covering the tablets of edut, that God is constant. Mikol makom yegam b'makom mekudash, also in this place in the Heichel, there will also be a nes matmid, a miraculous constant presence of HaKadosh Baruch Hu HaMefarseim, which will highlight Ki Hashem shochen shama, that HaKadosh Baruch Hu is there, He's here. Now, Vikfar Yadata, Moshe Rabbeinu alav hashalom. Here's the third constant. Moshe Rabbeinu alav hashalom, Nemarbo, it says about him, Vayar Reshit Lo. This is Vayar Reshit Lo. This is actually, where is this? The end of the Torah and the brachas. God asked that his place should be in a certain place where he wanted to be buried, because Moshe Rabbeinu was buried there. The play of Rashi points out because Moshe is forever, eternal. Moshe's eternal resting place, but Moshe Rabbeinu is in every generation. He's constant, presence of Hashem. Ki hu haya reshit utchila lechol advarim ha'omdim menes. Moshe Rabbeinu was the beginning of all things that were miraculous, coming from Hashem. V'hu haya kener zeh shemadlikin mimenu. He is like the light, the ner maravi, which lights the other candles. Moshe Rabbeinu, so you have the Shnei Luchot Edut, the Edut of testimony, the base of the Torah, the constant Torah, the constant Torah or. Then you have the menorah, the constant Ner Maravi, which lights all the other lights, and then you have lights all the other lights, so to speak. Mimenu kama nerot v'haner enu chaser. Kach ha'ud eitzel mimenu Shefa Ruach HaKodesh al Kol HaNeviim. All of the prophets received their inspiration through the inspiration of Moshe Rabbeinu, Adon HaNeviim. Sheboachru came after him. Ipnei Moshe kichama. The Moshe was like the chama, was like the sun, right? Gemara and Bava Basra. Constant presence of Hashem. Umimenu tzal or al kulam. So okay. Did I skip a line? Umimenu hutzal or al kach ner maravi. So too the ner maravi, the constant seventh light in the candelabrum in the menorah. Zeh shaya oru matmid, the constant one. B'derech nes, miraculously. Huatzal alav me'oru shel Moshe, in the light of Moshe. Ki hu hayam sori bein or Hashem l'kol minei or, because Moshe is the man in between, the light that came from HaKadosh Baruch Hu to Bnei Israel. He's the man in the middle. Asher amdu manes, the lights that come miraculously. V'hayasimin al zeh, how do we know that? Taub, famous Rashi. Well, Gemara, but Rashi quotes it. Taub nitmala kol habayit ora. When Moshe was born, the whole house was filled with light. Familiar Rashi and Chumash. Lahora, to teach us, to demonstrate, to highlight, you'll excuse the pun. Shehu yiyeh hamekabel harishon min haor ha'elyon, that he was the first to receive the light from HaKadosh Baruch Hu, the constant light. Ube'emtzauto, and through him, ushba ha'or al kol makom sheyesh davar omed b'neis, is from that light will be wherever there is something miraculous constantly going on, i.e. the Mishkan. Lekach nemar, therefore the Torah says, to answer one of his questions, V'ata tetzaveh, you, right? Shnei nochuchiot, two grammatical, I'm speaking to you in the familiar form, right? Lomar da'ata hainu mimahut atzmecha, from your essence of who you are. It's about who you are, Moshe, that only you can do this. Tosafot or, you can bring the light. Shabach Tetzaveh b'nei Israel, you'll command b'nei Israel. V'yiku elecha shemen, etc. Sha'shemen yukach elecha, ratzalomar tatzarfu elecha, kadesh tashpia alav mehodcha. So you can take that light, and your spirituality your spiritual energy will be transferred to that light, and it will be forever. It'll be sheyet tamidi b'derech nes. Last paragraph. V'achar kach natan tam l'shvat. Now we can understand. Lama hayatzorach b'neis zeh lefi shehu b'oel moed michutz laparochet. It had to be in the oel moed, outside of the parochet. Asher al ha'edut ki ha'parochet mavdil ben hamakom sheyesh bo edut, because you had the parochos, which we couldn't see that constant miracle of the edut. Shuruyi b'Yisrael u'bein stam oel moed lefichach ya'arocho to Aaron me'erev ad boker. So it was lit from Erev HaBoker, from evening to night. V'chikol halayla hayu omed va'orech el shenosein bo shemen kemirat chabruteh she'ein bo. The same amount of oil was put into that ner tamid. That was the miraculous part of it, and it went all night and all day. Ki im shir adlika me'erev HaBoker, the exact same amount of oil was put in as he put into the other 6 candelabra menorahs. But that notwithstanding, it was a constant ner tamid. V'adayin lo horesh me'ezet ner yatmid, nes, we don't know which nes, which candle. Ad she'amar lifnei Hashem, but the pasuk says lifnei Hashem, before Hashem. Ainu ner ma'aravi, that's the western ner of the menorah. Asamuch l'shchina shebemarav, which is close to the shchina in the west. Ki mitzad ha'edut, dome, it's next to the Kodesh Kedoshim. Dome ner zeh aron ha'edut, facing the aron ha'edut. Al pishnayim edim yakum davar. You have two witnesses now. You have two witnesses. Al pishnayim edim yakum davar. He's quoting a pasuk. Pishnayim al yidei Moshe, the third. He gam haTorah nikreit al shmo, Torah's Moshe. Below he's here kan kol hanerot. All the Norah are not mentioned here. Ki'im beParshat Emor, and Emor, where the mitzvah of the Norah lighting is mentioned. K'moshe Emor, as I've mentioned earlier. Al menorah TORAH yarach anerot ulekach lo nemar sham ata tetzaveh. And over there it doesn't say ata tetzaveh. Lefisha ikar hatzivu sham haya al kol hanerot. It's about all the nerot. Tzav. V'agav grara zachar sham gam nes maravi. Also, we mentioned the ner maravi over there, but v'omru lahalot ner tamid michutz laparochet. Okay, so this is a fascinating. Um, I love the way he asks a bunch of questions and then answers them really with one essential central answer. Right? All these questions deal with the fact that there has to be a central motif of God's constant presence throughout the Mikdash, from Moshe to the menorah to the Luchot HaEvan. Okay, final piece. I don't have anything this week from the Grush Alter, Rabbi Alter Rosh Hashanah Shiva last week. We'll have something in Misham next week, I hope. But I brought another Hasidic source that we've never seen. It's a sefer called Chamin B'Motzei Shabbat. What's Chamin B'Motzei Shabbat? One of the halachas of Melava Malka is you have to eat warm food for Motzei Shabbos. The phrase is Chamin B'Motzei Shabbat. This is a sefer recording the drushes of the Toliner Rebbe at Melava Malka every week, right? I happen to have the sefer on the sefer Chamin B'Motzei Shabbos, and we have to do a lot more of these contemporary Hasidic for an amazing person. He also has some sources in Ger, some shaykhs in Ger, but the Tolan Rebbe is someone who, like the Ger Rosh Hashiva, many influential people, politicians, secular politicians, Chiloni politicians, come to see the Tolan Rebbe for advice. Businessmen come to see him. Tolan Rebbe, I should tell you, let out a little bit of a secret. His family comes really. There's a Toronto connection. He was a student in Netiv Meir. You know what Netiv Meir is? Some of you should know what Netiv Meir was. A Bnei Akiva high school in Yerushalayim, an excellent high school. So so you can figure it out yourself. He traveled. He was a grandson of the Toliner Rebbe. His father he became the Rebbe. And as I say, it's very, very special. And we'll see, he brings something very nice here. Actually, it's a question that we've asked in past years, and I've given an answer from Rav Kook, but he has a different approach. Tetzaveh Parshatan. It says in our Parshat, Shivat Yamim Yul B'Shem HaKohen Tachtav Mibanav Asher Yavo El Moed L'Sharei HaKodesh. Here we're presenting in this Parsha of Tetzaveh, we're very busy with the Big Day Kahuna. So we see all of the clothing that the Kohen wears when he does the Avodah in the Beit HaMikdash, right? The Katav Rashi Zal, what does it say, Tachtav, that the Kohen will serve under him, right? His children under him. Tachtav mi banav, of his children, Melamed, this teacher, She'im Yeshlo LeKohen Gadol, Ben, Mimalei et Mekomo. If the Kohen HaGadol has a son, he takes over for him. Yamnu Kohen Gadol Tachtav. He becomes a Kohen Gadol in his place. Now, he brings this halach in the Rambam. Hachi ifsika hilchata b'Rambam b'hilchat klei hamikdash. Quote, Kishiyamut hamelech, O Kohen Gadol, if the king or the Kohen Gadol die, O echad mishar hamamunim, or all the other appointed positions. Ma'amidim tachtav beno, his son is appointed, a royally orsho, or someone else who is fit to inherit. So if the son is not ready, you go in legal order of who is in line to be the Kohen Gadol, like in line to be the king, right? It goes by, right. But of course, he has to be Mimale Makom B'Chachma. He has to have the Chachma. Right? It's a technical position. A lot of technical things he has to do, but there has to be the Chachma. Obeyira, and in fear of Hashem. Aval Pisha Eino Kamoto B'Chachma. Even though maybe he's not as smart as his father, right? But he has to have a certain sense of Yira Shemayim, right? Uba Halacha. The next halacha, however, there's an exception to the rule. Exception to every rule. Osif HaRambam adds, B'Katav B'Hai Lishna. Meshuach Milchama. The Kohen in charge of war, the chief chaplain of the Jewish army, Ein Beno Mitmaneh Taktav Laolam. His son never replaces him. Elaharihu Keshara Kohanim, the son of the Kohen Meshuach, is like any other Kohen. Im nimshach lemilchama, nimshach. Im lo nimshach, lo nimshach. If he happens to be appointed, he's appointed, but if not, not. It's not a guarantee. No, in past years, I've given the answer of Rav Kook. I'm not going to repeat it. Somebody remembers it, you'll let me know, and we'll repeat it next week, right? But here's his reason. B'tama davar, l'chalek ben Kohen Gadol lebein Kohen Meshuach Milchama. There's a great distinction between the Kohen Gadol and the Kohen Meshuach Milchama. Kasashama Radvaz, he quotes one of the commentaries on the Rambam, Aldivra Rambam. Quote, the Bishar Srarot, all other positions of authority, Afal Pisha Eno Aviv, even though he might not be like his father, Mamash, really like in the spitting image of his father, Ein Kpeda, it doesn't matter. It's a lot of technicalities that he has to do. He knows what to do. He's smart enough. He's got a good Yiras Shamayim. Aval Milshuach Milchama, Ketzarach Lechazek Lev Ha'am. The Meshuach Milchama is not just dealing with animals, four-legged animals, and going through all the technicalities in the Beit HaMikdash. He has to reach out to the heart and inspire the heart of every Jew, the soldiers. Meshuach Milchama, Lechazek Lev Ha'am Likrat HaMilchama, before the war. Lo Ratzu Shetiyeh Srara or Yerusha. This cannot be inherited. El hakol lefi mashu tzarech hasha. He has to have that ability. V'hainu shelefi shetafkid hakohen hamashiach. Now, I drew these lines here as we go now to the top of the left-hand column. Shetafkid hakohen hamashiach haya lechazek u'la'amez et leiv hayotzim l'milchama. His job is to inspire those who are going to war. Yiftachu b'tzur Yisrael, that they should have faith in tzur Yisrael, Hashem and Moshiach. That HaKadosh Baruch is going to save them. They're afraid. There's a certain fear going into battle. Not to be afraid of the enemy. As the Rabbi says, he has to say to them, you're going against your enemies. If you let them fall, there'll be no rachamim for you. Don't be weak of heart. When you hear the sound of the horses coming, and when you hear the sharpening of the swords, when you hear the shields being banged, then you hear all the sounds of war. Don't be afraid of the horns they're blasting when they come. God is with you. They're coming with the victory artillery of people, of human beings, but you're coming with the victory, the ultimate victory of HaKadosh Baruch Hu. The Philistines came with the strength of Goliath. Mahaya Sofo. What was the end of him? L'sof nafal b'chorav v'naflu imo, and he fell. B'nei Ammon bo b'nitzchuno shel Shobach. Mahaya Sofo. What happened to them? L'sof nafal micherav v'naflu amo. They died. He died, and they all died. V'atem, ki atem kain. Not you're different. Ki Hashem Elokeichem ha'olechem achem li'ilachem lechem. Hashem is ahead of you. He's leading you. He is Kaviyocho, our general. V'chein al zeh haderech hayatzorech la'ametz et levavam u'lachazkem b'emunat uman. This is Chazal. This is what he has to say. Now, the guy doesn't have that inspirational quality and gets up and says that. What's going to happen, right? Kohen Gadol, it's a different thing, right? A lot of technical stuff. He's dealing with the animals, right? He doesn't have to inspire the animals. V'kivan shezeu tafkidu shel meshuach milchama. And since this is the job of the meshuach milchama, as I afim beno memala achar avi b'chachma b'yira, even if he has chachma, it's a Talmud Chacham, and he has fear of God. Aval kol zman she'ein kol v'kol ari, but he does not have that presence, the voice of a lion. Ve'ein b'yacholto lahachnis ometz va'oz ruach b'leiv anshe ha'milchama. Does not have that power, that ability, that charisma to inspire the people. Nimtzashu chaser et ikar mahut hatafkid. Then he's missing the main qualification, right, of the job. He cannot take over his father's position. Ki arehu keben shel Kohen Gadol. Now go to the right-hand column under the line. Shemamaleet makom avotah b'chachma v'yira. Right? He can take over as Kohen Gadol. Avolhu gidem Rahman al-Islam. He is a gidam. He is an invalid. Ve'ein lo yadayim la'avod et avodah, but he doesn't have the ability to do this work. So he's saying something else. If Chas v'sholom, the son of the Kohen Gadol, is missing a limb, missing an arm, he can't take over for his father. So too, kachu beno shel meshuach milchama, she'enu yachol lechazek levav anashim she'amdu b'kishrei milchama. He can't get the job. His father, the meshuach milchama, was chosen not only for his chachma, not only for his yira, but especially for the fact that he was an inspirational, charismatic Talmid Chacham, a charismatic leader, right? So he says here, can be a son, a Kohen who's not aval piv mapik margoliot, but he speaks speaks diamonds. He's charismatic. And he can do the job. He is ready for this job. Therefore, right? So he says here, he goes in to say there's a limud. What do we get out of this? Well, he goes through it. He wants to say this has to do with how does a person become. Well, I'm not going to do it inside. I'll just say it outside. How does a person become this great inspirational leader of Torah? He's not an actor. He doesn't go to acting school, right? It's years of musar, of learning Torah, of his Yirah Shamayim is on such a deep and profound level. The intimate relationship he feels with the Kodesh Baruch Hu, and he's bursting to get that out. That can't be inherited. That's the kind of thing that everyone has to work on their own personal Yirah Shamayim. And his father was like that, but he didn't necessarily be on that level where it comes out from him that way. So that's what he basically says. I want to bring it out in a very practical sense that this is really what he's saying. One of the great tragedies in parenting is when mother and father want the child to be exactly the way they are. And they don't recognize that everybody is different. And I think that is the real lesson here that he's flushing out here, the Tol and the Rebbe, of why the Meshuach Milchama is not a hereditary position. Because not every child can be a Meshuach Milchama. His father was a Meshuach Milchama. Doesn't mean he can be a Meshuach Milchama, right? His father was a foreman in a factory. I can't be a foreman. If I was a doctor, his father was whatever he was. You can't make your child be what you are. That is a great tragedy in parenting. We can cripple a child by expecting them to be just like father and just like mother. So that's why we have this one exception where it's very clear that the child cannot be like the father, right? And that's the Meshuach Milchama. And perhaps to give over this lesson to us, okay? What Rav Kook said, can I remind you what Rav Kook said? I'm sure some of you remember. I'll tell you what he said. He said that the Jewish people, we have a great army. Tahal, Chayalim Kdoshim. We have the greatest army in the world. Siyata D'Shmaya, because Hashem really is behind us, right? Like he was saying here. But for the Jewish people, the idyllic society for OUisrael is not to have an army. It's temporary. The Beit HaMikdash, Torah is permanent. Mitzvahs are permanent. OUisrael is permanent. Torah is forever. Beit HaMikdash will be forever. OUisrael forever. Mitzvahs are forever. The army is temporary. This is not Plato's Republic. OUisrael. It's a necessary, and once we have it, it has to be the best. But therefore, to indicate this, Rav Kook said this. Therefore, the position of Meshuach Milchama is not inherited, because we hope that the next generation will not need a Meshuach Milchama. Okay, and let it be V'chein Yehi Ratzon for us right now at this moment in history. Thank you all. See you on, if you come Wednesday, we'll see you. If not, we'll see you Monday. Mirz Hashem. All the best to everybody. Have a wonderful evening.